We're going to get started here today for the PTSD Lunch and Learn on resources that are available for veterans to help them deal with PTSD. And before I introduce our panel, I just want to mention that we are at Avow are a proud Level 5 sponsor of the We Are Veterans program. And that program allows us to offer lunch and learns like this that are very valuable to veterans and caregivers of veterans. And I know that today is no exception. We have an incredible panel, and they have some really, really interesting and valuable services to offer for veterans. And I'd like to start out with having David introduce himself and who he's with.
Sorry about that. How's everybody today? I sound good on a mic. I just want to introduce myself. My name is David McKenzie. I'm the program director at Naples Therapeutic Riding Center. We offer programs for veterans, and I'm also a 20-year veteran myself. So I appreciate you all doing this, Avow, because it's very important for us veterans to know what services are out there for us. So thank you all for coming, and we look forward to this panel today.
Thanks for joining us, David. And Cindy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cindy Nelson. I'm the Vice President of Philanthropy at Golden PAWS Assistance Dogs. We provide trained service dogs for combat wounded veterans primarily, but we also serve children with physical disabilities as well.
And Shawna.
Hi, I'm Shawna. Good afternoon. I am a board-certified art therapist, and I'm here today to share about how Avow incorporates one of several complementary therapies into its services, and I'm going to have some visuals for you, and I look very forward to sharing more information.
Thanks, Shawna. And let's get the microphone back over to David. And David, can you spend a few minutes telling us about the program you have at the Therapeutic Riding Center and how that helps veterans with PTSD?
Most definitely. We provide, can you hear me? Sorry about that. We provide an introductory ground-based horsemanship program for our veterans and family members. It's a program, it's free of charge to our veterans. We have it once a month for about an hour to an hour and a half on our campus. Operation Strides uses the equine assisted learning, which is a hands-on ground-based program where veterans and their family members partner with the horse, so you truly get to pick your horse. You work on horsemanship skills, and part of that is horsemanship includes how the horse communicates, the senses people's moods. Believe it or not, horses are huge receptors, and a trained equine professional can, if you're standing by a horse and you're nervous, anxious, anything like that, a true equine professional can tell how you're feeling because the horse receives it and then transmits it out. It's kind of crazy, but it's true. Horses are very intuitive, and they live in the moment. And what we found with this program, especially with our veterans, you have to be in the moment. You cannot have these outside factors out there because you're dealing with a large horse, big feet, so it grabs your attention. And I think our veterans get in this moment, and we really can do some good. And they work with the horse for an hour. They set up an obstacle course. They lead them. They learn non-communication skills. All the things in the military that we used to do. You know, I mean, you've been asked to lead all your life when you're in the military, and you ask people to follow you. Well, there's a lot of nonverbals that you do when you're in the military, and you expect those people to follow you and lead with you. So our horses kind of really simulate that also because they don't communicate. They don't talk back. They won't judge you. And they like you. They do not turn anybody back. All they want to do is be accepted. So that's great because you've got a good thing you can work with, and hopefully a vet can come in and really get in that moment and work with it. And we found that a lot of our veterans that have had success in our program have come to do that. And believe it or not, a lot of times they'll go ahead and volunteer with us because once a month just isn't enough. And I really wish we could offer more programs right now, but we don't. It's very introductory, but we do offer ways to volunteer, and we can do some private sessions if the need arises. So really good stuff with equine. I'm not the horse person by any means at the campus. I'm the human guy. But I've been doing this for 2 years, and I can tell you it's very interesting, and it's amazing the type of therapy and things you can roll out using an equine, which is a horse. So we also have little horses. Some people don't like big horses, so we have minis also that we can take around to sites and actually go on the road with it too. So we have a lot of different programs, but the main thing we do for veterans is Operation Strides. And if it's something that you really feel you need that time with the horses or just being around a barn, which there are a lot of barn people in this town, believe it or not. They like the beach, but there's also a lot of people who like the barn. We have ways you can volunteer with us too, so you can get that also. So with that said, we do it once a month. I'm actually having one tonight, the 24th. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. I do have 3 or 4 spots available if someone wants to go into it. No worries. If not this month, I've also got another one in July on the 29th. Again, no charge. Come in, we'll sign you up, we'll get you a t-shirt, and we'll horse around. So keep that in mind. And then also, I'm not the best explaining things, but I can show you proofs in the pudding. We are going to have a Veterans Fair on the 4th of September. It's Labor Day weekend, but we're going to actually show you. We're going to do mini yoga. We're going to have the horses out there. We're going to show you our program, how you lead a horse. We're also just put a nice, beautiful flagpole to salute our veterans in the community, and we're going to have a flag ceremony. So if you have time, and I've got my schedule right here, come on out and try it. If I can't convince you talking about it and trying to sell it, then let's proofs in the pudding, let you come out and actually physically do it. So I hope to see you there. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And, oh yes, I have one question.
David, you talk about new beginnings and what you do with the school. Are you aware of that?
New Beginnings, we didn't do them this year due to COVID, but New Beginnings, what they do is they actually come out and ride with us about 5 to 6 times a year. On a Friday, they'll bring 10 or 15, 12 kids, and they will come out and we'll actually put them on the horses and work with them. This is an alternative school that we work with, so it's a good program. We're looking forward to getting them back this year. Unfortunately, we had to take a year off. We had a crazy year, in case anyone has been watching the news lately. But with that being said, we're really hoping now, starting in September, we can get back and doing all of our services, and New Beginnings is one of them, so we're looking forward to that. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, just to follow up. You use the term ground-based therapy.
Yes.
Does that mean that the participant doesn't actually get on the horse?
Yes, that's a good question. I'm sorry that I didn't explain that a little bit better. But yes, it's all ground-based. You will not ride. You'll do everything but ride the horse. Problem is sometimes we have with our horses is it depends on the size of the veterans in that. In our herd, we have 14 horses, but not all of them can take the bigger riders. So it's really hard to do that. And what we found is with the ground base, we can see 10 veterans at a session to where if they're riding, we might only see 4 or 5. So this way, even though it's a very introductory course and you're not riding, we can roll it out to more veterans each month. And hopefully, it's really the connection with the horse. I know a lot of people, I mean, it's like getting a fast car. You clean it all day and you wax the tires, you want to drive it. But it's really different with veterans. Some want to ride, but really it's just the one-on-one connection, getting in that moment and just spending time with that horse. It's kind of like, well, you're going to hear with the therapy dogs and the other things. So truly, there are people that would love to have a horse as much as people love dogs, and they treat them like that. So I think some veterans come, and some are scared of horses. We get it. But we want to take a time and teach you the basics and find out that they're really not that scary, and they do serve a purpose, and they've really worked well in therapy with some of our veterans in that. So, but thank you. That was a good question. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you will not ride.
Any other questions?
Thank you all very much. Please, come on out and horse around with us sometime.
All right, Cindy.
So let me give you a little history of the organization, just because not a lot of people know what we do in the community. Golden Paws was actually founded in Naples. We are a Florida-based, Naples-based organization, founded in 2012 by Jeannie Bates. Jeannie is a very well-known dog trainer, very well-known dog breeder around here in Southwest Florida, and it was kind of through her, some personal things going on in her life at the time, and through her business of training dogs, she would have people engaging her to train their service dog that they had purchased as a service dog. So a person spends $20,000 and purchases a service dog and comes to learn that they're really not a service dog. And so Jeannie, as a dog trainer, was providing this service in the community. And through that work, she just basically developed this passion for being able to honestly say that the dogs that we train are service dogs, and they do make a difference. Jeannie primarily started the organization focusing on combat wounded veterans. And so our first dog, her first dog that was officially placed as a Golden Paws dog, was placed with a gentleman who, through the Tampa VA, a lieutenant colonel, who had been severely injured, life-altering injuries. Jeannie actually connected with him in Tampa. She would go to Colonel Edwards once a week. She would take the dog Cody Bear, who is described as a dog who needed a Marine, and they developed this partnership, and kind of Golden Paws was born from there. We primarily, our dogs, because they're service dogs, their primary function with our recipient is to provide physical support. Now that can be helping somebody with balance issues. That can be helping someone who is 100% disabled in a wheelchair, like we have a recipient currently. And their ability to pick up on the emotional side in PTSD is really not something you can train a dog to do. It's something that an emotional intelligence that the dog has will allow them to recognize what happens to their person. Our dogs we primarily use golden retrievers. We do that on purpose. If you think of a golden, Goldens are a very approachable breed. They're a beautiful dog. They're not scary. I don't own a golden, I own a German Shepherd. If you see me walking down the street with my German Shepherd and you see someone else walking down the other side of the street with a golden, who are you going to go talk to? You're going to go to the golden. And that's very important for our recipients. Many of our recipients have not left their home for 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, because they cannot bring themselves to walk outside the door. They'll go to doctor's appointments, they'll do it when they have to, but the day-to-day living changes for many of our recipients. So a golden provides that social aspect. So you focus on the dog, you don't focus on the person, and that gives the person comfort. We use Goldens also because they're very trainable. They're a highly intelligent breed. Not that my Shepherd isn't, but my Shepherd's a knucklehead compared to our Goldens. They're very compliant in training. And so our training is 2.5 years. We bring them in as 8-week-old puppies, and we start their training immediately. They go into our puppy nannies' homes, and they're with our puppy nannies for about 6 weeks or so, and that's to introduce crate training, potty training, kind of get them ready, get them used to wearing a vest, taking that vest on and off. We call that getting dressed. That's a command that our dogs know is getting dressed. And then they come back into the center and start that basic obedience training. But we also train very specific commands. Brace is a command that we use. So if you are sitting in a chair and you have difficulty getting up, we tell the dog to brace, and you can actually safely put almost your entire weight on the dog and push up on their shoulders and stand up. So it's very important that our dogs know how to do that, and then our recipients also know how to safely do that. So after about 2.5 years of training, our dogs are then matched with their recipient. We have an application that everyone fills out, and it asks for some specific information. It asks for a DD-214. It asks for some medical information, and we may ask for verification with medical records. And then we bring an applicant in. We'll have an idea of 2 or 3 dogs that we think might work with that person based on what they need. We bring the recipient in, and we bring those dogs in one at a time. And every single time, the dog picks their person. The dog knows many times before we do what that person needs. And that's that emotional intelligence. That's where some of the things that our dogs can do for someone with PTSD, that's where we see those things manifest. We have dogs that when they match, it will be a very active tail wagging and love fest. We have other dogs that will go, and we had one just recently, the recipient was sitting in a chair, and the dog basically went over and pushed him back in the chair and put his head on his chest. This is a guy who has severe PTSD. Dog doesn't know that. And there is something in the air that makes it work. From the time that they're matched with their recipient, then we start team training. And that's where many times we learn more about the recipient than we knew previously. So we're in their homes, we're working with them 1 or 2 times a week. We see their family dynamic. And our dogs, because they're service dogs, they're in the home to provide care and support for their recipient. But when you have a dog in the home, it becomes part of the family, right? So we spend a lot of time in the home. We meet the family, we meet the extended family, and through introductions, we figure out how perhaps the dog can help the other folks in the household. If a recipient, if a dog dies, our commitment to our recipients is for their lifetime. So if something happens to their dog, we will provide a successor dog. We just recently had this happen in November. We had a recipient traveling on Thanksgiving morning with his wife and service dog in the car. They were hit head-on by a drunk driver. The wife was killed and the dog was killed. And our recipient, who was a fairly active man, has now had severe injuries that have been really life-altering for him. So just this past week, we delivered his successor dog to him. His needs have dramatically changed from what he needed for his first dog. And again, this is a gentleman who has night terrors. And so the successor dog that we delivered to him, the first night he spent the night in the home, the recipient was having a nightmare, and the dog woke him up. This is the first night the dog is in the home. Again, that's not something we can train. It's something that the dog picks up on and then acts on. We talk about, and sometimes you worry that organizations just use words for a dramatic reason or create emotion. But when we say our dogs are life-changing, is absolutely 100% true. We have, like I said, we have guys who haven't left their home in 5 years. And by delivering the dog and showing them that the dog can make it safe for them to leave their home, that's life-changing. So that's kind of us in a nutshell. Mr. Young, he's actually one of our board members.
Cindy, you might want to comment on our new home, which is just a
Yeah, so many of you probably came Pine Ridge Road to come here, and you turned on Whippoorwill. If you turned the other direction on Whippoorwill, you would have encountered our new home that's currently under construction. So a year ago in March, we bought the Harley-Davidson building, and we closed last week. We closed it down and started the demolition. So we will move our entire operation into that 30,000 square foot building. And it allows us to double the capacity of dogs in our program. Right now we have about 20 to 25 dogs in our program at any given time. That facility will allow us to take that up to 50. And therefore, double the capacity of dogs, double our ability to give those dogs. We also, a really important point of our program is we don't charge our recipients anything for their dog. There's no cost to apply for a dog. There's no cost when the dog is matched. Our dogs are delivered at no cost, and it's really because we are in a community that supports our work through charitable gifts. We're There are many service dog organizations that may ask for $10,000, $20,000, $40,000. We don't ask for anything. We provide support for our recipients if they're unable to pay for the food for the dogs, veterinary care, grooming. We never want a recipient to have to make a decision about how to spend the money, whether it's to care for their dog or to care for their family. We also know that a well-fed dog, a well-groomed dog, provides the best service dog. So we're able to do that for our recipients. We also do community service work with our dogs, and that's an opportunity to build that emotional intelligence. So we have a program with New Beginnings, which was on hold, like you, where our dogs go in and do a reading program with the kids. We also do that in the libraries. We do that in the Collier County schools. We go to Arlington and Bentley Village. And again, we can't train emotional intelligence. We can't teach the dog how to identify the person in the room that needs a little extra support. It's through that community service. That's where those dogs hone their skills, basically. Thank you.
Any questions for Cindy? Well, I have one.
Yes.
We had previously spoken about when the dogs are puppies, you can actually tell that some puppies can be trained and some can't. Could you just shed a bit of light on
Yeah,
that?
so the funny story is, so how do you know what dog is going to be a good service dog? We don't breed our own dogs, and that's because you have a litter of puppies that may be 6 to 8 to 10 puppies. Not every one of them is going to be a good service dog. They're going to be great pets, but they're not going to be a good service dog. So Jeannie has a series of tests that she puts the puppies through, and it basically starts at about 4 weeks. And one of the ones that she does, that's kind of the funny story, is she'll put a piece of food, a kibble, on one side of a piece of plexiglass, and she'll time how long it takes the dog to figure out that it needs to go around the plexiglass. So the dog that bangs his head on the plexiglass trying to get to the treat is probably not going to be the service dog. The one that comes around and figures it out is probably going to make the cut. We have dogs that have a variety of personalities. They're just like people. We have high drive dogs. We have dogs that are so chill. We have a dog that's named Woodstock. It's named for Woodstock, the event, and it is the most chill dog you will ever want to get. His name is perfect for him. And it matters. It matters. The personality of our dog matters when we're talking about the match. The physical structure of the dog matters when we're talking about the match. Because just like David said, many of our recipients are big guys. We do have female recipients, but most of our recipients are males. Most of them are big. And to have a small bone dog would not be safe for the dog and would not be safe for the recipient.
Thanks, Cindy. Any other questions for Cindy? All right, next we have Shawna, and I'm going to move over and let her take the lectern because she has a visual presentation for us.
We'll get the lights too. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Am I able to be heard? Well, excellent. So good afternoon. Glad you guys are here. My name is Shawna, and I am a nationally board certified art therapist. Can I just get a sense of who in the room has heard of art therapy? Okay, wonderful. So as you might imagine, combining the creative process, making art, with psychotherapy. That's it in a nutshell. And now I'm going to try to condense 26 years in the field into 5 minutes, which is ultimately very challenging for me because I would love to give you the backstories on some of the images you're going to see. What I think is helpful is for you to know that much like both Cindy and David shared, it's all about connection. It's all about rapport. So I believe, and I was mentored by some folks who also believe that anything is possible in the presence of good rapport. And with that, I'd love to bring you on in to mentioning that all the art you're going to see today has been created by veterans in the past year who are in the services of Avow. So they're in Avow's care. And I operate with a team of folks called the Complementary Therapies team. And we have massage therapy, we have lymphatic drainage massage, we have Reiki, which is a form of energy healing. Heard of Reiki before? Yes, excellent. It's becoming more and more known. As well as music therapy. So we have this department of complementary therapies. Today you're going to get a snapshot of art therapy with our veterans. So specific with PTSD, what the science and some of the research is now showing after 30 years of looking at how it can be beneficial. We know that art therapy is proving to help treat some of the harder to treat symptoms. Excuse me. So, for example, emotional numbing, when folks are avoidant, art therapy is one way to help tap into some healing. So with that, I offer you that art therapy can help alter not just our mood or our attitudes or our emotions, but it actually has a neurological benefit, which means sleep can get better. One's perception of pain can be decreased. One can actually sense that there's just more calm in the air by involving oneself in art therapy with a trained art therapist. So I want to just offer the distinction. This is not coloring on a coloring sheet. This is clinical goals with interventions, target dates to meet those goals, and that's what having a master's degree in it helps one to, if one could be around an art therapist versus, now there is benefit to coloring for relaxation, don't get me wrong, there's absolute benefit. But again, some of those neural pathways that are going to have that physiological outcome that's an improvement in one's life, it can reduce blood pressure. We know that it can help the immune system. And of course, promote relaxation and a sense of well-being. So what you're going to see is, and a few of the images will be, I'm sure you'll have questions and you're welcome to ask, but I'm going to simply offer you the container by which these photos were taken permission was asked. Usually the faces are not shown, and if in a few photos you'll see a piece of art over someone's face, and that's to protect their identity. Yes, so promoting relaxation and a sense of well-being. And also, like I mentioned, that connection. So that might mean it takes 6 sessions before a gentleman felt comfortable enough to create. But by Christmas time, and I'm still working with this gentleman, he felt comfortable enough to use something called foam clay, and I brought a sample of it up here in the basket if you'd like to see something that after many sessions of him resisting, hey, I'm not an artist. Oh, I don't do that, Shawna. No way. So I just kept showing up, building that rapport, building that connection. And then you can see by his posture, how relaxed is he right here? He does not feel stressed. He does not feel on the spot to create. And that's the key distinction you also need to know, is that this is never about masterpiece making. This is about the process of doing it. And then ultimately, sometimes people are happy with what they've created. Make sense? So overall, promoting and enhancing quality of life with those clinical goals in mind. Now, you need to also remember there is never any wrong art in an art therapy session. So with that, I would love to mention it's not art lessons. It's not an art class. This is about the process of making art. This is a 94-year young dentist, retired dentist. He knew what he wanted to paint. He knew what colors he wanted to use. So we had built rapport after a few sessions, and he was now telling me what sorts of materials he wanted to use. At the end, I say, so Doc, would you like to frame this? Oh no, that goes in my folder. So they always have an option to share it and show it versus put it somewhere private. That's a key piece too to it being therapeutic, to there being a real therapeutic benefit. It's always judgment-free. I often have to say, hey, this is a judgment-free zone, because we forget. We as human beings, we constantly are judging ourselves, right? Happens also during art therapy sessions. Creative expressions can foster that healing and that emotional well-being. We can build bonds with our loved ones. In this image, the gentleman veteran is making a Mother's Day card for his spouse. This is also the gentleman who didn't make art. I don't do art, Shawna. And so being spontaneous some days means I have a whole basket full of options, because you can't go in with one prescription idea of what's gonna work. It's just like, as you heard our other panelists describe, it's about emotional intelligence on both parties, right? Never forcing someone to create, that wouldn't work. So I really offer you the idea that, and here comes, among some of the most authentic experiences happen when there's sometimes conversation going on. And I'm not focused on the art, and nor is the client. The client might be, simply maneuvering some of the clay, foam clay, or air drying clay, and then ends up coming out with something. It's during that talking part that a new part of the brain is accessed that otherwise might be too on the spot. So this third thing becomes the focus. Does that make sense? Not the dialogue between the two, but that dialogue is what helps open up something in the brain and to think differently, to help heal. It's an opportunity to outpicture what's going on in one's inner world. We can have our inner emotions and share them without having to talk also. This gentleman is a vet. His spouse is actually in our hospice services, but often it's a family session because the spouse is sitting right there. His one resounding goal is to move back to Minnesota. Do you see what his license plate says? So it says Minnesota bound, and the beauty is, I've worked with this family for almost a year. It'll come up in a year in like 2 weeks. Tomorrow, they are moving to Minnesota. So one gets to like put his and or her dreams out there. And sometimes it's just okay to not talk at all. Art therapy can help contain overwhelming emotions and help reconcile feelings of guilt. This can all come out in the art, doesn't ever have to be spoken about. And again, by talking at the same time as producing art, we sometimes have a chance to ask, what is it like to walk a mile in your shoes? And it might just be a conversation that then I do a reflective piece of art based on what my veteran has offered, what my veteran has said today. So there are so many ideas, there are so many angles that one can offer a therapeutic moment, or 10, or 20, or an hour. And lastly, that one was the same art as before. Again, bringing art to the client, meeting folks where they are. Sometimes means they don't get out of bed. Sometimes we do art therapy bedside. Sometimes we do, like he has, you can see a hospital table was wheeled toward his recliner because that day he said, I don't feel like getting up. No problem, we'll meet you where you are. And lastly, I hope this has offered just a snapshot. Oh, there's the fruit again. A snapshot of how creative expression in the right environment where one doesn't feel forced nor pushed, true healing can happen. And true quality of life can be enhanced and can be, especially for our veterans, an outlet that they may not have otherwise had. Oh, the last photo isn't showing. Interesting. So this is a team shot where, ironically, and our client's face is covered with the little piece of art, 4 Avow team members all happened to converge at the same time at one of our beautiful clients' homes out in Marco Island. And so he was okay with the photo, and it's like 4 of us all giving a thumbs up to our beautiful client who had just created, and he's holding his art in his hand on that day. So, I thought he was holding his art. Now I'm a liar. So his family had just offered cards to a few of us, and the art had been happening just behind where we are standing at a glass table. Also a veteran, of course. And so thank you, veterans. Thank you for your service. My dad was in Vietnam. He was there when I was born, so he did not meet me until I was 8 months old. And it is absolutely my privilege and pleasure to get to serve this way. So thank you. If you want more information, I have cards up here. Anybody on the Avow team can refer, meaning they say, hey, I wonder if Mr. Joe would like art therapy. They can put a referral in, and I will give them a call and see if that's something they're interested in. Often, they're like, I don't do art. So I have to give my spiel. I have to get the 30-second elevator pitch going so that on the phone I can mention, hey, this can be a meet and greet, and we would have a chance to, I could show you my basket of supplies, but it often isn't about some final masterpiece. And that's where, when they hear my voice, they see my genuine passion for this field, there can be that rapport, that chance to build rapport, and then anything is possible. Thanks, guys. And just a little bit about Avow real quick. Of course, our veteran services. And I think that's it. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions?
Shawna, I have a question for you. I'm curious, I've heard several stories of patients who were not interested in all at art therapy, and basically just go away. And then hearing this, which I didn't know, that you run into that quite a bit, roughly what percentage of the people that you initially work with don't seem keen on starting art therapy?
I'm going to say about half. Half probably are so skeptical, and when I walk in the house, they're like this. This lady with the high voice, what is she going to have me do? And, it really is, it is remarkable how the growth that I get to see and the change in attitude just by meeting folks where they are and not forcing, but offering. The offering has to be there, and a little bit of the education, right? Like, here's what I can offer. And then sometimes when folks hear that there is a clinical background involved in my career, then they sometimes perk up a little more because they know this is more than arts and crafts. But about half, I would say, are resistant at first, thinking, I don't paint, I don't do clay. And I say, no worries.
Thanks. And then my follow-up question is, out of those 50% that do not want to begin art therapy, what percentage of them end up getting a positive experience from it?
I'm going to say probably close to the 95 percentile. We end up, but again, some folks take many just hello visits and checking in, walking into their world, appreciating what they're going through right now. So sometimes a whole session might be conversation about their pain. And then I get to say, did you know that sometimes when we create, we can actually reduce our own perception of pain? And so sometimes there's skepticism, sometimes they're ready to roll. Let's try it. I'll try anything.
Thanks, Shawna. Any questions for any of our panelists or any comments that you'd like to share? Glenna?
Excuse me, I have a comment. It's wonderful to see each of you with so much passion about your program. It's so wonderful.
Oh, yes. It wasn't a question, it was just a comment that they're all very passionate about what they do to help veterans in the community with PTSD and representing their organizations. And any other questions or comments? Yes.
Shawna, you mentioned music therapy.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that involve?
So great question. What is music therapy? So also utilizing clinical training to help meet someone where music and singing is not necessarily the ultimate goal, but the process of singing or clapping or hearing a song from one's past brings up a world of reminiscence opportunities, opportunities to build new stories, new memories with the music therapist. So it's a very similar expressive arts therapy, and special training for that as well. There's undergrad degrees as well as master's degrees for art for music therapy. Pardon me. Yes, that makes sense. Great.
And from what I understand, music therapy is extremely effective with our patients who have dementia. Because from what I understand, it's the things that people remember the most are both music and prayer. We actually have a pastor, your Pastor Ed Brant's here today, who's a veteran. And those are the two areas I hear that are very effective for dementia patients.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, questions? We still have a couple of minutes. I guess to close up for each of the panelists, would you say that the communities, I think Cindy had mentioned that a lot of the community isn't really aware of your services. So if each of you can kind of talk about, if they're not, any ways we can help try to get the word out to get more information about what you do and how you can help veterans with PTSD.
I think in our case, we've an organization that's been in the community since 2012. I've been in the community since 2011, and in the fundraising community. I'm a fundraiser. That's what I do. I had not really encountered Golden PAWS in kind of my day-to-day. We're an organization that quietly goes about our business. And we've had great success with word-of-mouth referrals. So many of our recipients are referred to us by current recipients. So, we have a great guy who's a command sergeant major who's retired. He lives here in the community. He has one of our dogs, Palmer. And Craig is part of a veteran liaison kind of initiative. And so as Craig is out in the community and people see him with his dog, he's able to make referrals. He has a business card and he says, contact me and let me tell you a little bit more. Our greatest asset, really, in telling our story is our recipients. So we don't shy away from the opportunity to be involved in things like this. We don't shy away from those personal introductions either. A service dog may not be the right choice for every person, but we certainly feel very committed and feel very strongly and obviously very passionate about what we do to serve the veteran community. So even if we're not the best outcome or the best solution, we hope to be able to be part of that conversation, so then perhaps we can refer to another organization. So I think, anytime we have the chance to partner, we look forward to that.
I was going to say the same thing. Very well done. No. I've got to echo what Cindy said. It's a matter of getting out. We had a veterans program a few years ago on our campus. It went well. It was a writing program, but it kind of fizzled out. So when I came back on board, or when started with it, we started this Operation Strides 2 years ago. In 2019, and we're still getting the word out. You would think after 2 years we had our information out, but the hard part is when people go by, they see a barn and a horse facility. So a lot of people want to go for a ride, and they don't understand truly what our organization does. So that's been our biggest challenge, is just to get what we do as a therapy center and who the clientele and the people we can work with. Believe it or not, besides the veterans we see, we also see 150 riders that ride in our program each week that have 34 different diagnoses. So PTSD is one of them, and that is one. So if you are a veteran in our program, you can ride in our program with our riders because you have a diagnosis. But the hard part is getting it out there. And so that's why I'm thankful, Mark, for having us here on these kind of panels. Also, like I said, we're having a Veterans Fair on the 4th, so I can show you in person. Like I said, proof's in the pudding. Let us show you how we work with our horses. And we're going to have we invite other organizations that serve veterans because, good point, my organization might not be the answer for where you are in life and what you need in life. That's okay. But if we can get you to other people that can help, that's what we're here for. So really, if we all are successful, great. But we're all here together because truly we're doing it for the veterans. So I need your help because you are our voice. You are our echo. You can tell them about our organization and about what you heard today. That's how word of mouth, that it can be powerful for us, because we're going to beat the streets and we're going to put it out as much as we can, but really the best kind of recommendation you can get, and what I've seen, is the one by word of mouth. And that's by you, each and every one of you, and myself. So please help me, and that would be awesome, because all we want to do is help a veteran, whether it's be on a horse, working with a dog, singing and dancing. I like that. I try that. Or even drawing a picture. It's just all we want to do is provide something for a veteran that will make them feel accepted, whole, and all that in our community. So thank you all for that. Yes, sir.
If you thought you had the media providing free advertising?
Yes, we have a very good, believe it or not, NTRC is in the news a lot, and we have a piece today, so we were very fortunate with our marketing in that we're getting information out. And so, yes, that's a constant struggle, but we are pretty fortunate. We have a good marketing firm that works with us, and they do help us get the word out, so yes.
Okay,
What are
and
you looking for in vendors with the event?
Vendors, if you provide a service for veterans, come on down. I'll give you a platform to advertise it. I'm even going to give you lunch. So come on down, and it's really, as long as it's a free service to veterans, we want you there, because the more information we can get out to our veterans, the better.
Are any of the puppies trained for the blind veteran?
We do not focus on training dogs as dogs for sight. There are organizations that focus specifically on blindness. Our dogs are public access service dogs, so they're trained to address a wide variety of issues. Leader dogs are trained for very specific things. We do have dogs. We do have a dog that is with a young woman who has cochlear implants. So when she takes her cochlear implants off, she has no hearing. That dog, she's a veteran. That match happened many years ago, but as her hearing loss became worse, we were then able to go in and do some things, do some training with the dog that allowed it to kind of morph into a dog that provides her support for hearing. Blindness is a very specific kind of focus for dog training. We're talking about dogs that, help with balance, help with getting folks up off the ground. We have a lot of dogs that, we train them how to interact with someone walking with a cane. So dogs are typically trained to walk on the left side of you. But if you use a cane on the left side, you can't have a dog on the left side. So we'll train the dog to walk on the right side. So they're very adaptable, but there is kind of a point where that kind of is outside of our wheelhouse. Yes.
Do you have the ability to have like in-house therapy sessions with your dogs for people who maybe live somewhere where they're not allowed to have a dog full-time? We deal with the homeless population a lot. They don't have a home to have the dog at.
Right. So we do, the question's about therapy dog work. So we do have ambassador dogs as part of our program. So we have a core group of volunteers that will go into assisted living facilities. They go to Landmark. We've gone to Physicians Regional. So they're typically kind of program-based and not so much one-on-one in folks' homes. We do, kind of as an adjunct to our program, we do have a therapy dog training program that's operated by one of our trainers. So many of the dogs you see in the community operating as therapy dogs have been trained by our trainer. And we hope to, with the Harley building, we hope to be able to expand that. I would say if you have a specific need, a specific idea, reach out and we can talk about it and figure out a way to perhaps, maybe it's a small group, and just, figure out a way to do that. Because again, our whole goal is to benefit the community, and if we can do that by simple therapy dog sessions, we're more than willing to do that because it helps our dogs as well.
And Sean, any last words? I guess one thing is, how many people, when they become involved with hospice, realize that there's art therapy and music therapy and massage therapy?
Great question. So we do, luckily, we are, well, as I mentioned, anybody in the entire Avow, on the entire Avow team can refer. And how do we get the word out? We do in-services. We sometimes we have a chance to speak at all staff meetings. Sometimes the music therapists actually offer a staff type of engagement, or I think mine's coming up in the fall, where I will offer something for all the staff to get to experience just a taste of what art therapy is, so then they can have a little more education about what they're offering when they go to a client's home. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
Sam?
Sure.
When you talk about therapy, that's really broad name for it. What style of therapy do you usually deliver to people? Gestalt therapy?
Great question.
Therapy?
So I am, the profession I practice is art therapy, and in my training, I had to learn about every type of therapy. So all of those together, right? I have a more eclectic approach personally, yet there are Jungian-based art therapists. There are, cognitive behavioral therapists, all these different types of therapists who may incorporate art in their practice. However, I am a purist in that my actual field of study was the art therapy, combining the creative process with psychotherapy. And I had to learn about all that comes with psychotherapy. Does that make sense?
Oh, sure.
All right, awesome. Thank you for your question. Anything else I can answer?
Any other questions? I think we're ready to wrap up. And I really want to thank our panelists for joining us today and sharing their information. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And I'll keep everyone in the loop as far as some upcoming programs we have here on campus. And once again, thank you and have a great day.